Hi, I'm kchoi. Welcome to my channel. I just received my master's dissertation results last week, so I thought that I would put up a video talking all about my dissertation, how I chose my topic, how I did my research, everything having to do with that. I was actually inspired to do this video by my friend Mackenzie, who also just uploaded a video talking about her dissertation that she did at Goldsmiths, University of London. So I will link her video up there and in the description box if you want to find out even more about master's dissertations in the UK. And go subscribe to her channel because she has a lot of really helpful videos about living in London, being a student in London, all of that. So go check her out. If you're new here, I just completed my master's in management at University College London. It's a 12-month program, so that's why I was living in London for the past year. And I also did a video about my program, so if you want to know more about that, I will leave that in the description box as well. Dissertation requirements are going to be different at every university and even within universities for different programs. So I'm not going to be going into specific details about those because you should be getting those from your own program. But I will talk about how I went around choosing my topic, how I conducted research of journal articles and things like that, what I used to analyze my data, and finally let you know what result I got and the feedback I received. So in February, which was about 7 months before our dissertation deadline, we had to submit proposals for our dissertation topics. And that was actually a lot simpler than it seems. It was just this form that we were given, and we had to indicate what field our dissertation was going to be around, a sample title, and then a 100-word description of the research. I have a general interest in sustainability and social impact, so I knew that I wanted my dissertation to have something to do with that. So initially, I thought that I might do some sort of case study on a couple of companies that have some sort of social impact mission. So whether it's social impact or environmental impact, for example, companies like Tesla or Patagonia, I was seeing that those companies were doing well with my generation of consumers. So I thought that I could do some sort of case study looking at how the founding of those companies have changed consumer behavior. So that's the gist of what I had on that proposal form. And then I went about and started doing some of my own research, looking at journal articles and news articles. We didn't actually find out who our supervisors were until May, so a few months after we submitted the proposals. So I met with my supervisor, and as we were talking about my idea for my dissertation, he helped me see that I need way more time to cover that kind of a topic. When you're looking at change, you need at least 6 months, if not a longer period of time, to study the subject once at this time and then again at a later time and compare. For the purposes of my program's dissertation requirements, we only had a few months to conduct the research, analyze it, and come up with conclusions. That wouldn't have allowed me to do something looking at change over time. I also needed to narrow down my field or industry from just socially or environmentally impactful companies to something a bit more specific. So what I ended up doing is I narrowed that down to cruelty-free cosmetic brands, and I also changed from looking at consumer purchase behavior to purchase intent. And that's because behavior is something, again, you have to study over time, whereas intent is something that you can just see at one moment in time. So the final title of my dissertation became Measuring the Ingredients of the Marketing Mix, Millennial Purchase Intent of Cruelty-Free Cosmetics in the US and UK. I chose to take a marketing lens on it because that is very consumer facing. And then I also decided to look at both the US and UK for a few reasons. One is I know a lot more people in the US than the UK, so I could have a stronger reach to get people to take my questionnaire. Another reason is I could compare the two, so have more things to talk about in my dissertation rather than just looking at one region. And the last reason is a lot of the articles I was reading were comparing developed versus developing countries. So I thought maybe I would look at 2 developed countries. That brings me into the second part of this video, which is about reviewing the literature. So your literature review actually starts before you finalize your topic, really, because you have to look at what is out there to even narrow down your topic. And then once you have your specific topic that you want to look at, you can focus that research even more. The main sources that I used were academic journal articles, but I also supplemented with some news articles, some social media posts, and some market research data. The market research data I used by going to the British Library in London. There's like a little bit of a process to get a membership, but it's pretty easy for students, and you have to be a UK resident to get like full access. But there they have these reading rooms and computer rooms, and they have access to a bunch of different market research reports. So that's what I used for those. For the academic journal articles, I mainly went through the UCL library system, which is online. First, what I did was I looked at the Associated Business Schools academic journal rankings, which is a list that is released every few years, and it ranks business and management related academic journals. So looking at that, I tried to select journals that had at least 3 stars out of 5, just so that I could make sure that the research and the references I was making were very reputable and reliable. So I would take a journal title from that list, and then I would put that into the UCL library database. That way, when I was searching through the thousands and thousands of articles that there are, I could be sure that it came from a reputable journal. I made good use of the search filters when I was looking for the articles, so I would put different combinations of keywords to pop up what I was looking for, and I would limit my searches to the past 10 years so that any data that I had was not too old. The literature review, I think, is definitely the most tedious part of the whole dissertation process, because there's just so much information to filter through, and I would have to do the same key term searches in different journal articles, so there's a lot of repetition. But in order to keep track of all of this, I had an Excel spreadsheet where I would copy and paste things I might want to quote or just information I would want to use, and then I kept track of what article it came from, and also whatever information is needed for the reference list, so I could have that all in one place and not have to search through all of the articles on my computer later. So the literature review is important because you have to know what is already being said in that space and see what gaps there are that you could fill in with your research. The other very important part of your dissertation is the actual data that you collect and analyze. It is a research paper after all, and as I said, I couldn't do like an in-depth case study analysis that I wanted to do, so I ended up doing a questionnaire and then extracting data from that and using that for my analysis. My supervisor for my dissertation also happened to be my decision and risk analysis lecturer, so he had a really big focus on statistical analysis and expected me to include a lot of that in my own dissertation. So I made my survey using Qualtrics, and just a side note, thank you again for those who helped me fill out my survey for my dissertation. But anyway, I used Qualtrics. I think it is the best questionnaire software to use. You do need a paid account in order to access everything and be able to export the raw numbers from your questionnaire, which is what is important to do any kind of analysis. UCL and most universities should have an account with Qualtrics or maybe some other kind of survey software that they have a partnership with. And actually, the main university didn't have a Qualtrics account, but the School of Management that my program was a part of did have one. So just ask your own program faculty for help if you need some sort of premium account for a survey software. So I collected data for about a month, and my goal was to get 100 responses from UK residents and 100 responses from US residents. I ended up getting 116 UK responses and I think 136 US responses. So I was very happy about that. And then I got like a couple hundred more responses from other regions, and I still wanted to collect those in case there was anything really interesting that I could use. And I think I did use like one tidbit of data using the rest of the countries, just as a comparison. So yeah, all of that really mattered and counted, so thank you again. To actually analyze the data, I started out using SPSS Statistics, which is a statistical analysis software, and that was also provided by my university. So I started out using that, but then after talking with my supervisor, I realized that I could do a lot of what I was doing on SPSS on Microsoft Excel. So I ended up switching over to using Excel because that was just a lot simpler for me to work with. And some people doing their dissertations might do qualitative research, so doing interviews and things like that. But mine was all quantitative using numerical data from my questionnaire. So whatever method you use to collect and analyze your data will depend on what kind of data you're collecting. Okay, so now to reveal what grade I got on my dissertation. First, let me just say that the US and the UK grading systems are different. So in the US, you have like 90 and above is an A minus to an A, 80 and above is a B, 70 and above is a C, and so on and so forth. In the UK, 70 and above is about an A, 60 and above is like a B, and then 50 and above is a pass. Maybe it differs between universities, and I'm pretty sure it differs between undergraduates and postgraduates. So don't take my word for any of those conversions of grades. And it doesn't mean that the UK is more lenient with grades. It's actually the opposite. It's just the standard to get a 70 is much higher in the UK than the standard to get a 70 in the US. And pretty much anything 80 or maybe 85 and above is reserved for work that is a publishable standard. For my program, those grades also correspond to a classification. So 70 and above would be distinction, 60 and above would be merit, and then 50 and above would be pass. Okay, sorry for all the buildup. I received a 72 on my dissertation. I'm so happy about my grade. I honestly just wanted to pass and receive my degree, and if anything, get 60 and above, which would equal to a merit. But I'm so happy that I got above a 70 on my final dissertation. I think it came down to spreading out my work and trying to be really organized about it, because although it was stressful, it could have been way more stressful if I had put things off. I'm not bragging or anything, I'm just proud of the work that I put in and the results that I got. But obviously there is room for improvement, so I wanted to share the feedback that I received, some of the comments that were on my dissertation, both the good and the bad, so that you can, so that it can help you get the best marks for your own dissertation. Got my computer here so I can read them. The introduction chapter does a good job of defining the problem, its importance, and hence provides a good motivation for the research studied in the dissertation. It clearly identifies the scope and objectives and asserts the boundaries of the research, but the flow of the introduction could be better. The student explains the contribution of the study and how similar and different it is from the related research in the literature. So that's where the literature review comes in. But the connection between the questions in the questionnaire and the hypotheses is not clearly explained. I definitely know where they are coming from with that, because I feel like when I was writing my questionnaire, I didn't have too much of a method and a specific thing I wanted to measure with each question. They kind of more roughly correlated to a section in my dissertation rather than being a very specific measurement, if that makes sense. In terms of the data, they said analysis of the primary data is clearly presented and the results are adequately interpreted. But it also says the dissertation discusses the limitations of the research but does not justify them. In the dissertation, you are obviously going to have limitations and drawbacks to your research and your research methods. So you need to present what those limitations are, and I guess I needed to do a better job of explaining why those limitations were okay in the scope of my research. And then about the recommendations I made based on my findings. I find the recommendations of the dissertation fully consistent with the analysis, so that's good, but alternative interpretations of the results are not considered. So definitely strengthen my argument if I were to look at other interpretations, but then came to the conclusion that mine was the most sound. And then finally, in terms of originality and overall presentation, because that was also one of the things that they were looking for, the research topic is definitely very important and interesting. However, I believe it has been studied in the literature to a certain extent. So in that sense, it's not the most original topic. I find the structure of the dissertation cohesive and appropriate. The citation of some papers inside the text are not appropriate. Overall, the presentation and structure seem excellent. So make sure you cite all of your papers correctly using whatever citation system your university or program requires. For me, it was the Harvard system, and I did double check, triple check, quadruple check all my references, but of course you can make mistakes and do it in the incorrect format, so just always keep that in mind. All right, so that is all I have to share today. If you have any other questions about writing a master's dissertation, I have my braces bands in, so that's why it's kind of hard for me to talk. I really should have taken them out before the video. It's okay. If you have any other questions about writing a master's dissertation, please leave them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them and help you out. I hope you found this video helpful and best of luck to you if you are writing a dissertation yourself. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more videos about food and London and travel. I don't know what else. We will have to see together. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!